Hello, networkers, and welcome back to another episode of Ask the Network Engineer, where I answer one of your questions. And in this episode, I want to talk about next steps as a CCIE. And this question came from Lucas, and he asked that he recently got his CCIE number and he has a question about it. First off, congratulations. So currently, he does not use any of his CCIE knowledge at his current job, but he's afraid that someday he may need to start using that knowledge for applying configurations or answering questions during a job interview. Okay, but again, he hasn't practiced any of it and he may forget. That's another valid concern. Should I look for another job or just keep studying by myself to keep it refreshed? And of course, after you get your CCIE number, what do you do next? So a lot of great questions in there. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Okay, first off, I love this question because when I got my CCIE 15 years ago or 16, 17 years ago, I thought the same thing. I thought about what is my next step, but two, how do I keep it relevant in this job market and or at the company that I'm working at? Here's what I've learned at the end of the day. Okay, it's going to be 100% honest. I always say get your certifications. That's important. And I say that for one particular reason. It is seen as a tool, as a job tool to get you into the door at a company. I've been involved in many different interview processes over the years. I've been a part of that for such a long time, of interviewing other people. I've seen dozens upon dozens of resumes. No offense, they all look the same. We all have the same kind of experience as network engineers with routers, switches, firewalls, wireless. I got it. We all have the same thing. So who do you call among a group of multiple people that you want to interview? Well, you may look at their level of experience, but that depends on the company's requirements of what kind of level person they're looking for. If they're looking for a senior person, they're going to look at people that have much more years of experience among those resumes. But really what stands out are looking at who are the ones that are certified. Okay, because certification means that you're treating this as a career, not as a job. Like I do 9 to 5 and I go home. Okay, a lot of companies, they want people who are invested as the trade. I'm going to use something that was used in the movie Phantom Thread. You know, what is your trade? You are a network engineer. Well, you need to make that certified, and certifications does that kind of. Okay, so I'm looking at that and saying, okay, who is certified in this field? And yes, there are going to be a lot more that are CCNAs. There are a lot of CCNAs out there, so that doesn't really stand out as much. CCNPs, there are less of those compared to the CCNAs, but there are even less of the CCIEs. Okay, so depending on the role, like if it's for a senior position, I'm looking at the CCIEs first, and I start working my way down the list. That's why I really treat the CCIE or any of the certification as a tool to get you into the door. Once you're in the door, then you are planted in the seat and you're doing the interview process. Okay? You're talking about what you know, what you don't know, your projects. I think I did like a 6-part video series really providing some tips on that. So watch that for more of those kind of things that we talked about. Okay? That's really how I view the CCIE. You want to get to the highest level because it'll make it easier to get some of these opportunities that are out there. And let's get into the other part of the question, which is that your CCIE knowledge is not really being used at your job and you're scared that you may lose it. It may not be reflected well if you do a job interview. You're not practicing it. Great question. I try to figure out how do I talk about this because there's a lot of stuff here in my opinion. Okay. So let me just say the first thing that comes to mind that I really want to say, which is the truth. The CCIE in general is not practical at all. I think I said that probably in many other episodes as well. It's a tool. It's a tool to get your foot into the door. It's a tool that makes you recognize among the industry that you are specialized, that you are a network engineer specialist. That's really what that means, right? We're official. We are officially network engineers. That's what that means. I have never, everything I have learned from my CCIE studies, never applied it ever in any job, ever. I think I said that right, ever. Never used it. So if you are feeling that way, is a normal reaction. You just need to focus. This is what's important for you as a network engineer. Forget about the CCIE. You got it, great. Put that there. You need to make sure that you understand the concepts of the particular areas that you are going to be working with. So if it's routing and switching or firewalls, you need to know those concepts. You need to know how to configure them, how to troubleshoot them. That should be your focus. Don't worry about trying to, well, everything I learned from the CCIE, I should actually try to replicate that at my job and during a job interview. Hell no, because during a job interview, like for someone like me, I'm not asking you CCIE questions. I'm asking you practical questions. Like, how are you configuring this firewall? If I give you these kind of requirements, how would you do this? Tell me what you know about OSPF and the best practices for OSPF deployments. Or how would you do BGP if these are the requirements? Those are practical questions. Those are questions that is not taught in any CCIE. I've been recertifying my CCIE for the past 15 years. So that means I probably took it like 5 or 6 times. Each time when I recertify, those questions are bullshit. I look at it and I go, none of those questions is what I do for my job, which makes my customers happy for how I do my job. It's nothing. I'm simply maintaining my CCIE because it is a personal thing for me now. I'm trying to get to my 20th year as a CCIE, and after that point, I am done with that particular track. So for me, it's a personal thing. It's not a professional thing anymore. It's a personal thing that I want to do because it is very expensive, and I don't see the value at my current level in this industry with having another CCIE or maintaining it any further than that. You need to make sure that you understand the concepts, how to design, how to configure, how to troubleshoot the areas that you are focusing on. That is the only thing that is critical. Now, with your CCIE, you got to make sure that you, of course, keep it updated. So every 2 years, you got to recertify. And it is your choice. The light just turned off there. It is your choice on how far you want to recertify that. Because I know a lot of CCIEs, way smarter than me, they basically stop after like 5 or 10 years. And they become a CCIE emirate status because they don't deal with those kind of certifications and that kind of stuff because it's not practical for them. You know, they focus on things that are more practical, and that's how they're doing that with their consulting or training that they're doing. And let me talk about the actual next steps that you can do if you are a CCIE. Because really at this point, you are at the very top of the mountain. So there is no other next step you can do, but it's more of changing directions on what to do next. And it's not really a career change. It's just more of changing the role of how you are as a senior network engineer or as a CCIE engineer. Okay, so here's a couple of things that you can actually do. I think there's like 5 things that typically most CCIEs do when they get to that point. The first thing is they start their own business. They do their own, a nice small business, but they start their own business. They do their own consulting for customers on particular areas that they want to specialize in. So that's a very good thing. Or number 2, you may do consulting, but not for yourself. You may actually become a consultant for another consulting company, which is perfectly fine. I see a lot of CCIEs that are doing that. They don't want to deal with the business side, taxes, legal, accounting. That's painful. So they prefer to have someone else deal with it, but I want to be a consultant. So that's usually the second thing or the second path that you can actually consider. The third thing is going into management. So you can say, you know what, been there, done that. I've done the technical thing. That's fun and all, but I want to go now towards a different track and become a network manager, and then maybe a director, and maybe a CTO. So that may interest you of going along a management track. A fourth thing is basically getting experience with DevOps, network programmability, that I've been talking a lot about on this channel and will continue to talk about. So you already have your experience for networking, so keep it refreshed. That makes sense. But learn programming, learn API calls, learn SDN. So that's something that could be also very good. And the fifth one, learning new products that you really didn't do as a CCIE, because as a CCIE is more Cisco focused. Networks aren't Cisco focused anymore. So it could be important to learn about other products, learn about Fortinet products, Palo Alto Network products, Checkpoint products, Riverbed products, HP products. Learn about different products, learn about the hot topics out there that you may want to specialize further in, like data center, security, cloud computing, things like that. So those are really the 5 things that you can actually consider of what you may want to do. So let me share with you what my next steps were once I got my CCIE in 2001. It's a long time ago, January 2001. So at that point, I was a senior network engineer. I got my CCIE, and I just wanted to continue being a senior network engineer. I loved what I was doing. I loved technology. So I immediately started looking for other job opportunities, because now I had much more leverage of looking for opportunities that were out there. And I saw that. The phone calls were coming. When I applied, I got a phone call pretty quick. So that's why I saw that as a great tool to have when you're applying for jobs. So basically, I became a senior network engineer for a few more years after that. I worked for the Department of Energy as a senior backbone engineer, which is something I wanted to do for a long time. And after that point, it was like there was nowhere else to go. I did a lot of projects at that particular time, and I was at this crossroads of trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I didn't want to do management. I didn't like management, going to meetings, dealing with politics. Yuck. I did not want that at all. I love technology. I still want to get my hands dirty. So management was not the place to be. At the time, DevOps, that wasn't something that we talked about at that time. Remember, I've been certified for like 17 years now. So that wasn't something that we talked about. It was really traditional networking. And learning about new products and new solutions out there, yeah, I did it though, but Cisco was still pretty strong in the networking world. There was really nothing else that I really felt like I needed to learn at that time. So I said I want to be a consultant, but I didn't want to be a consultant for another company because I didn't like to deal with politics, and sometimes the direction of the company, I always kind of went, let me do my own thing. I had other friends and colleagues that started their own company doing Microsoft consulting. I learned from them and I realized it's not that bad. So I started my own small business to do consulting, specializing with Cisco consulting. And I've been doing that pretty much ever since. Over the years, it changed where I did start to learn about new products and new solutions and deploying them within my customer environments based on their requirements. So being a consultant, it gives you a lot more exposure to things that you don't really get when you're working at a single company. There's pros and cons. Working at a single company is great because you're used to just that network. I love that. As a consultant, you have exposure to many type of networks, and they may be different and have different requirements. But over the years, I basically learned about new products and solutions along the way as a consultant. So it's kind of like two birds with one stone. And that also included DevOps. So those two things came into the equation years after I became a consultant, and incorporating that within my business and with my professional services to my clients. Therefore, Lucas, I would recommend to look at those options that I talked about and kind of see which one interests you more. And it's okay to say, you know what, I love technology. I want to get my hands dirty. I'll just continue being a network engineer because that's what I did for several years. But really, you're going to definitely reach a ceiling. And maybe that ceiling never happens. Maybe it's much higher for you that you may continue doing what you're doing because you love it. That's perfectly fine. I just love technology. I love learning new technologies, and being a consultant was a better path for me. So you have to figure out what is a better path for you based on your interests. And we are done with this episode. So if you have any questions about being a network engineer, post those questions below in the comments, and your question can come up in a future episode on this channel. So thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and support us at routehub.net. And until next time, keep networking.